You are an old jazz fan, obviously. You were, I don't mean an old jazz. You were a jazz fan for a long time.
It's all right, okay. I can take that.
Your biography places you in New York in the early 50s. And sitting here rapping, I hear a lot of stories coming out.
You know, we were just exchanging some ideas and some old experiences. Coltrane was somebody that I was extremely fond of and used to go spend many hours listening to him. And at the same time that I was listening to Coltrane, I also met Ravi Shankar. I met Ravi one cold November, I'll never forget it. The wind was blowing down 57th Street, and he was heading towards the Great Northern Hotel. And he's about 5'2", and he had this enormous sitar, and the wind was blowing, and I see this little man with the sitar and his things flying, going down the street. And I stopped him and I said, "What's the matter?" And he said, you know, something like, I don't know where I am, what are you lost?" And I said, "What's the name of your hotel?" And he said, "Great Northern." So finally I showed him where the hotel was, and I said, what kind of, what is this thing you're carrying? Because I hadn't been to India yet, and I didn't know the slightest thing about Indian instruments. And he said, "That's a sitar." And I said, "Gee, that's a fantastic looking man. You could get some wild sound out of this thing, I'll bet. So how can I hear you play this?" And he invited me to a concert. So the concert, as I remember, was at Town Hall, I think. And I showed up, and they had the sticks of incense, and the girl came out, and she did a couple of ching, 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 things like this, and then finally, a la Raka, and Ravi came out, sat down, and they put out the carpet, and they started getting into their thing, you know, which is tuning up the instrument and getting into this kind of state. And there were about 50 people in the audience. That was the extent. Town Hall. And I listened to the performance, and you know, I was extremely moved, although I really didn't understand the scales or what was, I didn't understand the tradition, but the emotion I understood.
When is this in time? 50s? 60s?
This must have been 57. And so, you know, I then decided that I'd take him around to all the jazz clubs. And Ravi was extremely kind of purist, traditional type of Indian musician. He never really had any contact at all with jazz, except he admired certain musicians, and he always said to me, "I'd like to meet Coltrane." So one night I took him down, I think it was to the gate.
That's good, yeah.
And that must have been the night you were there.
Yeah, apparently, because I met him that night, yes.
And I lived around the corner from it, so I brought him down there anyway. We had dinner at my house, and then we went around from my house downstairs, and that night John was playing, and they met, and I remember they promised that they would give each other lessons. You know, Ravi was going to learn some jazz from John, and he was going to learn some Indian music from Ravi, and that was the extent of that meeting. And then you've told me just now that they went on and there was a little bit more to it.
Yeah, well, they had planned, well, at least John had planned to record with Ravi, you know, and there was some interchange between our percussionists and Ravi's percussionists, but it never transpired. But I was looking forward to it. I really wanted to, because I think we were delving into Indian music and Indian scales during that period, you know, which I think it might have been a little later than 57, I think.
It was 59, 58.
Yeah, around 59, something like that, because I think I didn't start working with John until maybe late 59, early 60, something like that. But it would have really been an interesting thing. And as a matter of fact, we did, like I said, use some Indian instruments on some of our albums, you know, so you know, it was a beautiful experience for me. You know.
It's funny that the Beatles finally had to be the ones that, you know, did get involved with Ravi, although I think he did one recording out on the coast, World Pacific. I can't remember who it was with. I thought Herbie Mann, but I'm not sure. But I remember him speaking about that.
I think it was Phil Woods, if I'm not sure.
Phil Woods.
Yeah, possibly, I'm not sure.
What kind of instrumentation was that record
was India. It was a live date we did at the Vanguard, and we had tambura, you know, and Eric Dolphy was playing on that. I think he played flute or something. No, he played saxophone on that. Yeah, it was 2 saxophones, a rhythm section, I think, tambura. You know.
He wasn't playing flute then?
Yeah, he was playing flute, but Eric wasn't. But on this particular,
he didn't play on.
I don't think he played it on this particular cut.
God, I always remember him sitting kind of like a mouse behind the drums. You know, like a space thing, you know, blowing this flute. Incredible. I have a shot of, in fact, of my first film, Chappaqua, started out at the 5 spot. And I went in there one night, and Mingus was playing. And Dolphy,
the old 5 spot?
Yeah.
The old one, the 2.5?
Right.
Yeah.
And Dolphy was on flute. And I got up and read some poem. And Mingus, he didn't know, you know, poem from whatever, and there was a bad bunch in there that night, and Leroy Jones was there, and he's not Leroy Jones now, he's Imama, but then it was Leroy. And he was, and I started reciting this poetry, and it was a very hostile kind of gathering in there, but they were so amazed at what was going on. We were filming and carrying on, that you know, in the end it turned out very nicely. And I didn't use that footage in the film, but that's where the film actually started. And I took a lot of stills that night of Eric Dolphy, and someday I'll show them to you, because they're beautiful. Because he looks so wistful and kind of, you know, lost, like a little lost mouse or something behind all this. His ears were kind of like that.
Excuse me, our film's breaking up. How can we just start again? Have they seen the commercials? Can we just...
You want to come back to it now? Same thing?
Sure.
Just keep going? Well, we want to do another cut. Cut.
You have to start over then.
Oh, yeah.
I'll pick it up.
In the 1950s, she married another American, Conrad Rooks.
Show me how you do that trick, the one that makes me scream. He said the one
An aspiring filmmaker and heir to the Avon fortune. Conrad and Zina had a son together, Alexander. Zina and Conrad kept a house on the Greek island of Mykonos, where the couple and their son spent a few months every year.
spinning on that dizzy edge. I kissed his face and I kissed his head and dreamed of all the different ways I had to make him glow. Why are you so far away? He said, why won't you ever know?
There was someone also watching us from a cafe. It turned out to be an American woman named Zina. And after the 10 days were through, I was going back to Athens. I got back on a ferry boat. I was up on the top deck, and there was almost no one on board. But there was this one woman who was this very striking, beautiful, blonde woman, a little bit older than myself. And she came to me and said hello to me, and said she noticed me in these street scenes that she would watch us, because this group of friends would always be with each other. And we got talking, and she happened to be someone who claimed to be Princess Zina Rachevsky, a Russian princess. Or she really wasn't a Russian princess. She was from Brooklyn, a Jewish girl. But her father was from Russia, and evidently he had been in the guards of the Tsar or something, and was indirectly related to some nobility. So she just took upon herself to say. And she looked gorgeous. You know, she was tall, 5'9", 5'10", blonde hair, enormous blue eyes, and a really beautiful face, very dramatic. And she had been a part-time actress in Athens, in Italy. And she had been on various magazines, like not quite Playboy, but Rogue and these kind of shit, in some layouts, because she was this actress. And she had married some guy named Conrad Rooks, who was making a film, or going to make a film about his life as an addict. And he had just gone to France and taken a peyote cure for his addictions, and then once had overcome with a psychiatrist. And then he went to India, to Ceylon, and was studying yoga and had really overcome his addiction. And he was going to come back to Athens, where he lived with Zina. So, you know, it was a very interesting story. She knew all sorts of writers, and you know, like Allen Ginsberg and Kerouac, and these people her husband knew, who was wealthy and so forth. So it was fascinating talking to this woman, so I got her name, her address, and on her telephone number. And when I got home to Greece, to Athens, I wrote her a letter, and I asked her if we could meet in the Parthenon on the Acropolis. You know, so she did send me a card back, because I had my address, and she said, I still have that card. And she said, you know, you sound very like Walt Whitman, Song of the Open Road. You know, there must be a pure form of expression. I cannot meet at the Temple of Athena, and she gave her address and her telephone number. So I called her up, and she invited me to a party. So that was, and then soon after I did go to meet with Elia Kazan and got a part-time job in this film. And then I met a whole other group of people, Eli and Charlene, who was there, and my other friends. And then Eli and Charlene and Zina and Conrad, when Conrad came back from Ceylon, all got together, and that was sort of the basis of this community that I